Athlete Builder back at it in the library. Jim Beebe and my teammate Lucas Lorian. Today we have Tim Rodmaker as we kick off year 2 of our podcast. We just finished with Kyle last week. This week we had Tim, and this one is another referral. So if you go all the way back to my guy Danny Brown, episode 9, I was just meeting with him over the summer. I said, hey, I remember you mentioned a few jiu-jitsu guys and baseball guys. Who else should we have on the show? And he said, gotta have my guy Tim. And I messaged Dan today a couple times asking him for dirt. And he's like, no, man, Tim's my guy. He's so grounded. He's all about his family. I love Tim. I can't give you anything. I'm like, great, Dan, because that part's kind of the fun part of the show. But today we have Tim. So strength and conditioning guy, 19 years in professional baseball. From 06 to 20, all with the White Sox organization. From 22 until now, he's with the Marlins. Played wrestling. Played baseball and wrestled in high school. Been active his whole life. Has a whole mess of kids, and a big family guy. But a couple things right off the bat about Tim. Quite grounded. Does those things on purpose. And even when I end the whole show, like, what would you do if you had all the money in the world? He's like, stay-at-home dad. So also things I like about Tim, he was a integral part of some of these major teams, including the Jumbo Shrimp out of Jacksonville, the Intimidators, which is one of Dale Hart's, the original number 3, his minor league team. Been around, but now he's all the way up in the Marlins, major leagues, and been doing this 19 plus years. And we're lucky to have Tim on the show. We're going to have a good discussion today, learn a lot more. So, hey, Tim, welcome to the show. We're looking forward to having you on and getting to it.
Thank you very much. Again, apologies about the camera. Maybe that's part of it. But yeah, if Dan Brown says I need to connect, then I need to connect. That's all it takes.
Pull and power that guy has. So, Dan didn't give us anything about you. Do you have anything about Dan we should know?
Gosh, probably not anything you don't already know. Dan, you know what? Dan's not scared, and that's probably one of my favorite things about Dan. He just, along with not being scared, he doesn't care about your opinion when it's going to be something he wants to do, but it's in a respectful way. He doesn't need people giving him fake pats on the butt to get riled up. When he puts his mind to it, he just does it. And honestly, at times I'm jealous of that quality in him as a friend. I wish I could be like that a little bit more sometimes and not have to, as you get a little older and you have more responsibilities, people who count on you, sometimes you can't just run and jump off the diving board as fast without, making sure there's water in the pool. But Dan Brown, sometimes he don't give a shit.
I don't know.
He just runs and jumps either way.
Minors, and you're sleeping on buses through the night, traveling from city to city for next to no pay. That's sounds like a big risk as well. And it's not like you were single. You got a wife and 17 kids, it looks like, right?
Yeah, thanks. I do. Well, I would try. When I started, I was very young. I was very single. I was so lucky to get in with the Chicago White Sox at the time. They were really one of the first teams to employ strength coaches full time in the minor leagues. I remember we went to winter meetings that first year, and this was back in the day. Tough boss, Dale Torborg, tough boss. Fantastic friend now that he's not my boss, and always had our best interest at heart. But this was back in the day when he told you to sit down and don't talk. And you have not earned the right to talk. You have not been around long enough to talk. Go do your job, and when you're finished, hang tight. I'll let you know what's next. So we went to winter meetings. We're the only minor league crew there, and it was the same thing. It was, hey, you guys are coming. Everybody wear a suit because you're not going to look like a slob, but you're also not going to say anything. You're just going to sit in this row next to me, and we'll talk when it's all finished. But the White Sox were amazing at the time, and just such great minds. The Sox as a whole at the time, there were other staff members, they would start and finish their entire career with the White Sox. They wouldn't go anywhere. So really could gain a lot of just, oh yeah, that's how it is, by just hanging out with people, listening, watching, asking questions when appropriate. Yeah, it was awesome. Of course, I was only a year out of college when I got this gig. That story in and of itself is pretty neat, but definitely didn't have a wife, no kids. Alex, we didn't get married till I was probably like 8 or 9 years in at the time.
Was that back?
But
in
yeah,
Frank
now
Thomas
the kids.
days?
Woof. It was right at the end. It was right as he was not with the White Sox. He was retiring at the time, but he did come around. Dude, he was my favorite. Frank Thomas was my favorite growing up. I mean, how could he not be? We moved to Southern Indiana. We got cable TV, had channels like WGN, TBS. I mean, cities that could have been on the other side of the world for all I knew as a 6-year-old. And yeah, they were the White Sox, and they were kind of they were like kind of edgy, I guess, at the time. And yeah, they had Frank Thomas. And I just thought, dude, this guy's amazing, and he was, right. I mean, he was an amazing player. So yeah, he did end up coming back around to the spring training side a little bit on and off throughout the year. So I've met him informally, but he would have no idea who I was, though.
Right.
Oh,
so
I'm
from Cleveland, and I went to Purdue for my undergrad and graduate work, and so I'm in the dorm, and you're right, and then WGN comes on, which is out of Chicago, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, no Cleveland stations. What is all this WGN stuff? Tons of Sox, tons of stuff, and so you start to like those teams a little more because you see them more.
Yeah.
Plus, with a name like the Big Hurt, shoot, that's gonna be amazing. Those early years on the road, minor leagues, got to be a bit crazy. Everyone's, killing themselves to try to move up. I started thinking about Bull Durham. Anything stand out in your mind from that period of your life?
Oh man, I look back on that and I think how lucky I was, how lucky those players are. I mean, when you're at that stage, right, and you really, you're only responsible for one person. It's yourself, right? Just wake up. Wake up, get out of bed. Don't be a dummy. Get to work. I mean, that's 90% of the day. If you can get to work on time, chances are you'll succeed, right? Like not too many people are going to let you fall off the wagon, especially when you're at these minor league affiliates. It used to just be, about 5 staff members. You'd have a manager, pitching coach, hitting coach, athletic trainer, strength coach. That was it. So between the 5 of you, you had to get everything done. And if you weren't pulling your weight, somebody going to speak up and let you know, right? So just the freedom that, you could have, you slept on the bus, you go to these crazy small towns at first, but you see parts of America that you might not see otherwise. And so that was pretty neat. And even just the role of strength conditioning, how it's evolved since then, and the appreciation of it in professional baseball, the way the players have even kind of fought to bring it to the forefront in some things. They have a union now, and they believe this stuff is important, so they stand up for it. But yeah, goodness, what else did I think of back then? There's not a job on the planet that can make you more resourceful and more figure out a solution than being a minor league strength conditioning coach. We go to these places. Of course, there's no gym. Hell, there's hardly, like, lots of these places you would change at the hotel. You go to the ballpark, do your day, come back, change at the hotel. They would do laundry at the hotel, and then you'd have to get it out of there, for the next day. So yeah, of course there's no gym, and you would go, and you'd have your bag of stuff, and like, how can you make it happen? And that's part of the magic too. So like, I live close to Louisville. They have an outstanding weight room. It's called the Marshall Center. You can see it from the interstate. It's 2 stories, glass top to bottom. I mean, right. They should be getting people amazing in there, right? They work for nothing. So yeah, that's awesome. But it's not a knock on them. That's that culture. But yeah, can you do it with not just limited resources, but sometimes in those early days, next to none. And yeah, we did, man. I think we did a really good job with what we had back then. That culture's changed too. A lot of these new minor league parks have been revamped, rebuilt. And like I said, the appreciation for it, the staffs are larger, the players fight for it. You'll find, even if it's tiny, some sort of room dedicated to strength and conditioning almost most of these minor league parks now. So that's pretty helpful. Story.
My next in line brother, I got two brothers, Brad and Eric, and my brother Brad, all grown up, he wanted to be a sports broadcaster. He's a school teacher now, but all grown up, he wanted to be a sports broadcaster, and he went to college for it, got his degree in that, and first year, rookie year, right out of college, he gets a job in minor league baseball. And it's down in North Carolina. It's the Wilson, North Carolina, the Tobacconists down in Tobacco Road. So for short, they're called the Tobbs, the Wilson Tobbs. All right.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's calling the games at night, and he liked all the players. At that point, let's see, I graduated in 97. So it's 99, and probably maybe 2000 is when he starts. And those single A guys, they're making no money. So in that small town of Wilson, he and all the players, they room with the residents of Wilson. So they'll so those families will be hosting one, maybe two
host families.
And he comes home during this one stretch, maybe it's the All-Star break where they weren't playing or whatever, I don't know. I'm hanging out with Brad, what's it like? Anything crazy? He goes, well, to your point, Tim, is that they don't have much to do other than get up in the morning, show up, and not be dummies, like you said. And most of those guys are doing that. But there's always some that are not. Of course, all I care about is, tell me about the dummies that are not doing it. What are they doing?
Yeah.
He goes, well, they're kind of hurting the team right now. A couple of these guys, they're staying with these host families, and they're banging the moms. They're banging the wives. So when the husbands are off at work, they're sleeping with the wives, and I'm like, yeah, they got caught, so they can't stay there, and it's a black eye on the team. The other host families are kicking people out, so some of them are all they're sleeping on the bus now, and they're all getting dressed at the local rec center. It just completely fucked everything up. I was like, so that's year one, right? So, and then he made, you got, like you have to be able to grind through that and keep elevating if you want to move up. And he was not up for that. And he's like, I'm just going to do a couple of years, and I'm going to go with my second calling. I'm going to be a school teacher with younger kids and work with them. So that's what he does now. And hugely passionate with sports, but no longer calling games. And I'm like, oh man, this is craziness everywhere. Like you said, don't be a dummy, but it just takes a few to mess things up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it does, and when you show up and you're with the same 40 dudes every day for, 200 days in a row, sometimes you make decisions you shouldn't make.
We're not going to get into that right now, and we're not running any police reports on anybody on this podcast, but we're just going to keep focusing on what we're supposed to be focusing on here, right? So, all right, so things evolve. Nice. Obviously, but is there still the pushback from whether it's coaches or manager or whomever saying, I don't want my players to get big and bulky. I don't want them getting tight. I want them to be able to swing freely, blah, blah, blah. Do you still get that pushback at all?
That's a great question. No, what's the best way of saying that? So that's, If you get that pushback, that's actually my fault, because that means I haven't taken the time to have any sort of conversation with the person that has that mindset, right? If they're aware of what I'm doing and the goals that we're chasing, that's step number one, right? Because if they're aware, then they realize their concern is not on the radar of what we're trying to do. The bigger picture of that really is the person with that idea, who might have had that idea in the past, staff members, field coaches type stuff, right, is if they're part of the process, if they have, just like anything, if you have a little bit of ownership in something, you're more vested, right? So when we talk to the hitting coaches, hey, what do you see with so-and-so? They list it out. Okay, yeah, you know what? I have some things I can do that can help that. And by the way, we're already doing these sorts of things. They go, oh, no shit? Yeah, okay, cool. Now that's step one. I've alleviated that type of worry from the past. And they now have an ownership in it because they're going to come in, they're going to go, have you been doing that thing we talked about? Yeah. They talk to a player from their end of it too. So really, that is just that's squarely on me if that's still happening, and that doesn't really happen as much anymore either. Just for those reasons, I think communication's better. The players are more, they're more into it at an earlier age. So by the time they get here, they expect they want to do it, right? Their day might not feel complete without some of that stuff. In the past, right, you take it back 15, 20 years ago, maybe.
Gotcha.
People were still thinking like that,
but
but
away,
not as much anymore.
You had that conversation with the other coaches and you're getting that feedback and you're talking about what you're doing. It sounds like you build some trust immediately because they're like, oh yeah, he's hearing me. He's hearing the concerns I have about the player and he wants to address those immediately. And then what's great is that you're programming exercises and training methods. And then you're getting that feedback loop. This guy's slow rotationally, so we've been working on this. So, he seems to be hitting for more power. He has more rotational speed. Or he's quicker in that first step from the batter's box to first base. So you have that feedback loop and you have this trust. Now you have this synergy between these teammates, and the teammates is the leadership team, the coaching staff, trickling down, trying to manage this high performance athlete, this race car to get it even faster and more miles out of it and be more productive.
That's exactly what it is. And that mindset is what keeps it moving forward, but keeps the circle together, right? Of everyone involved. Like first off, players know when you're bullshitting them. Really, at any level, the youngest ones know it, the oldest ones know it. So when they have that sense and that feeling of, wow, this staff is here for me. How this would be my question, and I guarantee you guys do this. How do you make every person feel like you're really just there for them? Like, can you look at that person and go, "Hey, I'm going to be here for the other 24 people, but I like you more than everyone else," right? You got to make them sort of feel that, but then you got to make the next guy feel that way also. We love them all equally, right? As a dad, you love all your kids equally. Not all the
time,
though. But when each well, not all the time. That is right. Yeah. When I get those calls from mom when I'm out of town, then I might feel the same. But when each guy knows that he's getting that love and support from every staff member, here's my plan, and this plan may be similar to some others, but they didn't just take it to the Xerox machine and copy it and pass it out to 10 of us. They buy into that. That's where the magic is, and that's tough to do.
So
that's an X factor.
One that's important to me and Lucas, because Lucas is a strength coach at a high school working with student athletes. And, I work with adults, but also student athletes at our gym. So there's a little bit of a story in the background of this question, but I promise there is one. So we've had a number of students, all different sports.
Yeah.
And I interviewed a couple of our guys. They play, they're great kids, and they play for DePaul, which is a D3 baseball team. And they're having good years, they're all conference, et cetera. And so I went back to them because they were the same year as my son that plays football at Ball State. And, good families. We've known them for years. And I said, hey, can I get you guys on a phone call? So I want to ask you some questions. And they're like, sure, no problem. So I'm talking about this and that. And I said, hey, you guys are really good at what you do, right? And this isn't a knock. I'm not trying to be an asshole. But how come you guys aren't D1 or a major D1 Southern program, et cetera? Like, what is the difference? I asked them. And they're like, one guy, he's 6'3", throws hard, bats well. He goes, the difference between me and those other guys is that he goes, physically, they might be an inch taller maybe for that position, but they're just physical units was his phrase. And I go, what's that mean? He goes, well, Jim, the year I played the least amount of travel ball, but just lifted in your gym, all my numbers went up the following year because I had so much better command of my body. I didn't feel achy and hurt, and then I had more strength, and then so therefore more power and speed. He goes, but these other guys that are playing at the higher level, they're powerful. They have all the speed, and I can hit the ball well. I don't hit it to the fence. I don't have that power, and these guys are just physically more capable. And I said, well, it looks like everyone I talked to in the travel sports program, they're all about more travel sports, more hitting lessons, more pitching lessons. And I said, well, I own a gym. You should come train. And they look at me, well, you're just saying it because you own a gym. And so that's absolutely true. But show me the one limiting factor that all you kids don't have, and I'm offering to fix the one problem that you guys don't have. And so I get this pushback saying, no, we don't have time. We don't have resources. And I believe they don't have time with how much baseball they're playing. But what do you say to the kids that say, hey, you really want to play? You want to play at Alabama? You want to play at Vanderbilt? You want to play at SC? And you're just doing travel ball, and you're not doing speed work. You're not doing any strength work. You're not building your body. What do you say to those kids to give them the reality of about what their chances are to play at the higher programs and beyond?
Yeah, dude, what a great, I mean, you're talking right there and I'm listening, and I'm even thinking about my kids who the oldest is in the 4th grade, 4th, 2nd, kindergarten, preschool, right? And from any of those ages, we get people, oh, hey, so-and-so ought to be doing this, more of this, more of this. No, hey, well, first off, I can tell you, being physical at a younger age probably sets you apart, right? I mean, the three of us, we remember the first dude in our class to get a mustache or need to shave, and the first dude to get a little hair under his armpits. I mean, he was probably just better at most things than we were because he was just more physical early on. And so that is a great divider when you're early. Technical skill is just, it's learned at such a different pace for everyone. And, the amount of reps you get, but just as well as you can practice, if the old saying is perfect practice makes perfect, well, the inverse has to be imperfect practice makes imperfect. So if you continue to do something half-assed year round, you're just going to continue to stay half-assed at it, right? That's where the beauty of doing other things besides just this travel ball, or whatever it is you like to do. Like competitive chess year round. I don't know. You should probably take a break at some point and maybe play checkers. But if I turn around and look backwards at the dudes here in baseball across the board who've been really successful, they all play a lot of sports. And that's just the bottom line. And that's not me being old grumpy man hollering. I mean, guys who were backup quarterbacks in college, guys who played water polo in college, guys who ran track in college, guys who, went to a smaller school until they got a chance. And at that smaller school, maybe have done a few things. I think that, I don't know if that completely answers everything you're talking about, but yeah, you got to develop just as an athlete, not as just this one thing, right? Just as a baseball player, your skills, you're going to learn them. Yeah, gosh,
well,
that's such a good topic.
I listen to Mickey Marotti and Urban Meyer, and there's plenty of other awesome coaches out there, and they'll say that we don't look at bringing anybody to Ohio State unless they play at least 2 sports. So that was just a separator right then and there. But right. So if I can just base off that.
Yeah, I mean, what else would you need to hear?
But if you need even more evidence, if you play a different sport, neurologically, you're going to get better. Neurological pathways in your brain are going to form so that if you're playing baseball one season and then basketball the next, your ability with your change of direction will be better. And then so when you go back to baseball, you'll be a better baseball player. Two, you'll miss your old sport.
No doubt.
You're less likely to get burned out.
Yes.
Right?
Oh.
And if you're in a different sport,
I love that topic.
Right, you get the chance to be a teammate again, which again is a skill. How do you receive feedback? How do you ask for feedback? How do you prop up your players that are down, or even those that are above you? How do you still push them up even though you're chasing them? So that's another learned skill you can apply in your main sport. But the other separator I also want to ask about is like, I'm going to be 50 this year, and I played CYO ball, which means like it's like rec league, but for Catholics, right? Catholic youth organization. And if you're any good in any of the sports, you get to play like a little bit of travel all-stars, which may have been another 2, 4, 6 weeks tops. So you get some better reps get some better competition, which is awesome, right? That would be the separator, those extra reps, and that propelled you probably to play varsity, and then you're playing varsity, and then you're probably going to maybe playing college, depending. Well, if everyone's playing travel, that separator is now gone because everybody has that. But if your kid is the only one lifting, and no one else is, it's a new separator, right? If there's tons of ACL tears because everyone's getting hurt, but you're the only one that's doing things for your hamstrings and your glute and your core, well, you're probably not going to have an ACL tear because you're doing the things that separate. You're preventing the injuries. And if you're doing the things to lift, you're going to make your team more stronger and therefore more powerful and quick. So if no one's lifting and your team is the only one lifting, I gotta believe your team's going to make some huge gains that year.
Yeah, I mean, you've said so many things that right there that I think are valuable. One is the mental aspect of it. It's okay to miss something, right? Well, I can't wait till such and such season starts, man. I'm so excited for that. That's a great feeling. We talk about that here. We show up to the ballpark every day, right from early February till hopefully late in the postseason. But how do you stay in love with it, right? How can, it might be the half a day you get away or the off day we have. Sometimes guys, I want to come in, I want to do this, I want to do that. Hey man, 1, you're not going to lose the skill. 2, your body won't forget how to do it. We won't forget who you are. We still love you. You're going to show up the next day. Security's going to let you in. You're going to be right back at it. People are going to want your autograph. Get out of here and just want it a little bit. Go recharge. And that's why, and I think what plays to that is having relationships in other places, right? You might be the star on one of your teams, but you might ride the bench on another team. And you just said that. So that how do you get those social growth interactions, just being a better person? Sometimes you need to be the leader. Sometimes you need to be the listener. Sometimes you might be somewhere in between. And that's hard for kids, right? I mean, we see that all the time. I see it with my own kids. We see it here. But yeah, just to get away in the separator, right? I mean, get your body going. Of course, we're all biased. We love lifting weights, right? Here we are as what even connected the three of us to start with. But there's nothing wrong with, putting a little time in whatever method or style of working out you want, to have these little other mini goals. And again, you could be part of a team with that, right? You go to the gym, you run into your same 5 homies every time, and they play a different sport, but you play this. But in that moment, you guys are together, right? Somebody's going to be the alpha, somebody's going to be the follower. Everybody's going to have to kind of fill in. Yeah, man, I just think it's just that variety is so important. You did say something though, if you don't mind me, I'm going to circle back. And, you were talking to those guys and you were asking them about being at D2, D3. The one thing, well, we're not too far off in age. I'm 42, and growing up in Southern Indiana, I mean, if I didn't hear about the school, if it wasn't in the newspaper or on TV, I mean, I didn't really know it existed, right? So I knew Indiana, Purdue, had a cousin at Ball State, had a cousin at Indiana State, knew about Evansville, and I knew about IUS, which is IU Southeast. It's in New Albany, right? It's like a branch of IU. So when it was time to go to college, I mean, it was just, hey, pick a school in Indiana that and that's it. And I kind of, as an aspiring wannabe athlete too, thought, well, man, I mean, if I can't go and do a sport at a big school, I'm done, right? But baseball in and of itself, and maybe other sports too, I'm just unaware at the moment. I think that is gone. We get so many dudes who started at a JUCO, started at a D3, transferred to a D2, D1, got drafted. Like, your ability to learn about schools, have exposure. It's just, in my eyes, it exponentially larger than what it was 25, 30 years ago when we were probably at that crossroads of our life. So yeah, the other thing I would probably, to bring all that together now, the other thing I would probably tell kids is, who gives a shit what size the school is that you go to? Dude, you got a jersey on you? Play till they take it off. Play till no one else will give you one, if that's where your heart is. Or, like your brother, being a minor league broadcaster, quickly realize that he made the best decision out of all of us, by the way. I should send him a card and tell him, nice move. He got out. But, if your goal is to just play for a little bit and, you just want to go to school, play a little minor, yeah, then just play until you're done. But if someone will give you a jersey and your goal is to put a jersey on, doesn't matter what the level is.
That's great advice, because we all know the percentages are what they are to advance all the way, right? And so people still need to make a living at something. And if you take the approach, I'm just going to do my best in my profession, and it's baseball right now, or for some it's baseball and being a student. I'm just going to do all I can to get better mentally, physically, spiritually, and all those things. And that's going to be my identity of who I am. And then once I take the jersey off, they won't give me another one. That's fine. But that's going to be so ingrained in who you are that when you decide to go be, a veterinarian or a school teacher, that's going to be who you are. You're always going to be trying to get better mentally, physically, spiritually, or whatever. And that's how you're going to apply all those lessons throughout your life and your career and your family and your spouse going forward. So that's where the tremendous value is, because it keeps getting passed on. Like if you look at Lucas, he said he's 5'7", played D3 football, was running back. Apparently he was a DN, he just told me. But you take that, and then he's end of his college career. He's at the Arnold for weightlifting, which is snatch and clean and press, right? Then he's at college nationals for powerlifting. Last year he wins everything in an amateur bodybuilding competition, and now he's back at weightlifting. So he's playing, his hairline might tell you that he's coming up on 30, but he's still playing all the different sports. And he finds, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Lucas, but he seems like he's missing one. So then he comes back to weightlifting. He's like, hey, I'm still pretty good at this. Let's have some more fun. So his jersey is going to be a singlet, but he's still in the arena. And it still gives you something to keep doing, even when your hairline's leaving you.
Love that.
It's getting back there.
I love that. Hey, man, own it. It beats the option. Not waking up, right?
The day in a life, 162 games. Jeez, Pete, man. 162. It's just killer.
Oh,
and we were talking to this, Lucas, before, in my Ball State played at the Miami Hurricanes on Saturday, and it was bad.
Yeah.
2.5 hours lightning delay.
That's tough.
So you're sitting out there in the heat in the concourse waiting for them to open things back up, heat index 105, and then it's a 3.5 hour game.
Yeah.
Right. But then they fly back right into Muncie, and they had things, they had treatments on Sunday. So there's all this adversity where it's not like you live on the north side of Indianapolis and you play the north side teams. You travel anywhere, and you guys are traveling all the time. What is that day in a life like, week in the week life of trying to put together some kind of routine, jet lag, getting them to train, keeping them from going out at night? Like, shit, how do you manage that piece?
Yeah. Goodness. Oh, dude. Well, first off, it's important to understand what you should be managing and what you shouldn't.
What's that then?
Start with that, right?
Right.
Well, I'm not their mom or dad, right? I can't hold their hand once we leave the ballpark,
right. Nor
should I. If I'm enabling them, I'm not setting them up for anything but failure. And a lot of that is what weeds people out in the younger levels, right? The 28 guys we have here right now, they're the most 28 consistently available guys. I've seen some really good dudes not make it. Really good. for a variety of reasons, right? And most of it is off the field, whether it's positive or negative, but they get distracted, right? They and that's okay. But how do you manage it, right? So part of that is by the time you've made it here, right, you've learned what that grind is like and you embrace it. You know, game 50 through 120, there might not be a whole lot of excitement, right? But you're okay with that. You're okay with coming in and honing your craft and being great at it. So these guys are the exact opposite of youth travel ball, right? Aspiring, growing kids. These dudes are trying to put food on their table. This is their job. So this is no different than your brother being a teacher, the accountant you take your taxes to. Like, right, if that guy isn't giving you a good refund, you go find a new accountant, right? So these guys, the same thing. Like, they know there's a system of guys under them who want their job. They were once that guy. And so to me, that's one way that they come in and they stay, I guess you could even say, enthusiastic, motivated, moving forward, right? This is my job. This is my craft. I'm going to be really great at it. Or I'm at least going to be good enough that the next guy in line can't take my spot. Now, how do we, the strength coaches, the high performance team, which is a hot term, right? Just encompassing massage therapist, physical therapist, mental skills, high performance dietitian, athletic trainers, all of us. How do we do that? Well, we have to get to know the guys for starter, right? We have to have a plan. We got to know the guys. We need to always kind of have one eye on the present, one eye on the future, and somehow magically have a third eye to the past, like, or at least notes that we can reflect upon, right? So me personally, I kind of take things in these 3-day chunks. What'd you do yesterday? What's the goal for today? And what are we hoping to do tomorrow? And then when we get to tomorrow, I just take these 3 days and I shift them forward. That allows me to really stay engaged with where a guy is. Because again, like, all 28 of these guys are in a little bit of a different phase of their career. And if we have a plan, so the Marlins in general, I think we're somewhere in the top 3. I think it's us, Seattle, and maybe I forget the other team, but who logged the most airline miles throughout a season, right? I mean, we're constantly on a plane traveling, but we're traveling the furthest. So we have to, I mean, that's where, you can come in, rip raring, new guy, I got all the answers, but unless you've done it, unless you've built those calluses from actually doing it, it's still going to kick you in the nuts a little bit. You don't have the answer. That's where you lean into the older guys who've been here, staff members who've done this. Hey, man, we're flying to Denver, getting in at 3 a.m. What's that normally like? And then they tell you, and you try to make some decisions based off of that. Or, hey, here's the scenario. What have you guys done in something like that? So, yeah, you got to you're never obligated to make other people's mistakes again to move forward, right? That's actually fairly ignorant.
Sure.
Like, you might make those mistakes, but not on purpose. So, you learn from these guys who've done this. You take the information you're currently getting, and then you use that to move forward. When it comes to the actual X's and O's in the weight room, again, that's just communicating, man. Like the position players here, they love their workouts being on paper. So they see it. And okay, here, and this is my 3-day window. We're in Miami. You're lifting. I'm showing you the paper. Okay, hey, we're going to, Phoenix for 4 days. Let's plan on your next lift being whatever. This day here, show them. Yeah, you cool with that? All right. We'll plan, but you got to do that for 28 guys. And then when you get to Phoenix, hey, you just touch base again. All right, now I take my 3-day window and I shift it. Okay, hey, remember tomorrow we're going to lift. You're going to do this. Make sure we get some extra hydration, sleep. You talk about your diet. You don't eat very well coming off the plane. Okay, what do we do on the front end of that? Or maybe sometimes, because in the major leagues there's no shortage of food. In the minor leagues there's a complete shortage of food. Here you can eat basically all the time whenever you want. And so maybe that's something you talk about a guy too. Like, hey, remember, man, go a little lighter here because you need to eat here, or eat a little more here on the front end because you don't like to eat too much where we're going. It's just all about communication. And this even goes all the way back around to what you're saying or asking about earlier, lifting and is it get bad feedback and stuff? No, because it's that full loop, right? Talk to the hitting guys, talk to the pitching coaches, talk to the manager. Here's the plan. And then when they come back and ask about it, hey, how's it going? And you guys are rapping and you're talking shop a little bit. That's it. That's a long-winded answer. I'm sorry. Did I even get to what you asked, man? Lucas, you still awake, man?
That's
my bad.
I've been telling some of my student athletes to do this. So I want to run this by you. 19 years, and you're saying, hey, what's it like when you're in Denver at 3 a.m? Well, once you do that once or someone tells you, well, I tell my guys, keep like your own little almanac or your own little Bible or your own little notebook. So like if you have like a book, your own playbook, the Tim Rodmaker, it's just this huge 18-inch binder, like it's like 35 pounds, right? And so if I were doing that, I would have notes on every stadium. I would have notes on all the cities. I would have notes on the players I'm facing. So if I'm a hitter, all the pitchers, right? And, what's it like at this, training when I'm on sleep deprived? If I eat something heavy before a game, am I still good or am I slower? So after that many years and that much data, if I write that down, then I know, hey, this meal keeps me light. I'm all right. Mm-hmm. I might eat my main meal 4 hours before I play, and then a little snack 2 hours, and then 1 hour maybe it's just Gatorade, and then I'm good to go. So if you have if I'm telling these kids, keep your own little Bible, your own little almanac, and just write this shit down, have different tabs, and then see how you feel. Like I might be, as your coach, saying to do this, but it's still some trial and error. And you say, hey, man, coach, I like doing squats. I like doing the lunges and all this stuff, but my legs are kind of wrecked, so we're going to have to dial it down a little bit. I'm like, all right, cool, thanks. Got it. And if you have that, so do you see players at that level? Do you guys do anything like that? That's huge.
Yeah. Well, I can answer that from a couple inlets, right? So, we'll have hitters come in the game to the bench, pull their notebook out and start writing. Face so-and-so, here's what he threw, here's the count, here's what I did. Pitchers the same way. Now, there's data everywhere in baseball, right? Like even the three of us, we could just get on Google right now and find damn near everything that we're going to hand these guys. But what we don't find is that X factor that was in their heart and in their mind in the moment, right? Because like it's easy for us sometimes to go, dude, why'd you make that choice? But what we should be asking is, what did you see? What did you feel? What was your instinct in that moment that led to that choice? Because that's where the answer is, and that's where they come back and they write a lot of stuff down. And like early on, X's and O's weight room stuff didn't track a lot of weights per se. It was just kind of, you're at home. I mean, if you split the season in half, right, you're at home 50% of the time, you're on the road 50% of the time. Let's say you work out half at each, right? So 25% of the season you're lifting at home, 25% of the season you're lifting on the road. So at home, I just had to get enough memory. I learned this kind of stuff like, hey, dude, I remember you did that last time. Why? Either you're doing better, you're doing worse. It was always like the testing is training, training is testing. But on the road, you go to, the Winston Tabs road local Globo gym, and they're in pulleys and shit. It's going to be different, right? So why would I take time to record these weights that we'll never see again? Really just focus on the stuff at home. But as I got older and more into it, it's exactly what you're saying right there. I realized there is still value in recording what they do no matter where it is. Even if there's an asterisk next to the Winston Tabs gym and just says, I think these weights were wrong, but this is what they did, right? So I got some idea. And then that's where, we went from the strength and conditioning culture. I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak for, my 35-pound binder, which I would totally have because, I can't even get the camera on this thing, right? So, I'm not keeping it electronically. We went from this setting of like, okay, really just monitoring absolute strength, right? Are you staying strong throughout the season? How do we do that? The three of us, obviously, I mean, if this is where the conversation goes, we can take it there, but this is probably more boring for people listening. But we know the X's and O's, like strength phase, hypertrophy phase, where are we going to be at throughout the season. But as I've taken my time and we get basically more toys, right? I don't know why the Australians, a land of criminals, I love them still, but how they sort of cornered the sports science market with Europe, but they did. Right, so we got things like Vault here. We got this Beyond Power pulley system here. I mean, again, data out the wazoo. So much data, we actually have to start saying no to it and only yes to the things that are important. So now, and we get back around again to that last question, which is a great one. Like, what do you do on these? So you basically were asking, how do you manage or monitor this workload, this magic workload monitoring? I'm doing air quotes right now. I know you guys can't see me because it's camera. Well, it's actually, thank you. It's actually the style, right? So the what you're doing, and we have so many more options to really keep an eye on people now, right? I mean, things like VBT, things like French contrast, things like this Beyond Power spitting numbers out, the Vault spitting numbers out, the Force Deck, right? So even if they come in and then you got to take that, and then you got to have the magic X factor, and you got to give it to them. This is what we just said, right? Hey, I know I got to train with 25 other more guys today, but you're my, in a quiet whisper voice, you're my favorite. This is what I think you ought to be doing right now. So go ahead, do that. I'm going to watch you, but I'm going to go over here and get this other guy started too, right? And then you just spread that around. So, wow, man, that was a long ass answer. To what
if my kids come into the gym and they don't have at least a 1 times body weight squat, and really up until 2 times body weight, I don't give a shit about any of those little gadgets you just rattled off, the VBT and all of, so who cares? Your knees come in when you're squatting. Right. Who cares how fast you are, because you still got problems. So it's so much low hanging fruit, when you're dealing with, high school kids, to get them right before they even hit college. And so, right.
Well, that's the secret, right? I mean, if you want to get stronger, this is the secret. We could probably stop the show after this, unless your first 100 episodes said the same thing. If you want to get stronger, you have to lift weights.
Love it. All right. Your job is done.
Done? Yep. Goodbye. Okay. Yeah.
How much of the strength conditioning do you think is just being drowned in data? I just feel like everything has to be backed, like every single thing has to be backed up by some number or some metric or something to back up anything that you do in the weight room. I'm just curious about what your thoughts are on that stuff, because I've had like velocity based training. Like, one, I can't afford it where I'm at, and they're always emailing me. I got like 3 different companies emailing me about timing systems and velocity based systems, and I'm just trying to get a kid to squat the depth. So
sure.
I'm just curious how much.
No, dude, fantastic question, right? So, man, a lot of it's culture based on maybe the organization you're with or the sport you're in. So here, the three of us, we can probably talk shop about this type stuff, and I trust you enough as a person to take what you say to be the truth. I don't need you to show me a number, right? I don't need you to back it up with a research article. Dan Brown, for example, right? I've seen him succeed enough as a weightlifting coach. That's his data, right? So I don't need Dan Brown to justify to me when he says, actually, I think this. I go, right. Oh yeah, no shit. Okay, man, you're probably right. So this is really where I think, as a strength coach, what you do is with the numbers is you use these numbers. One is as the feedback loop, which we talked about earlier. Okay, I trained this. My goal was to make a guy, I'm going to train so he has a better RSI mod, right? Cool, fancy term, throw it out there. Right, so he's just more reactive. I train them for 4 or 6 weeks in this block and I test it. Okay. That's my feedback loop as a coach. Did I accomplish what I wanted with my programming? Because if I did, great, I understand this works. And if I didn't, great, now I know this method isn't it, and I need to move forward. Sometimes with a player, they respond to that. They see that and they go, oh, cool. Yeah, I get it. Thanks, man. Sometimes they don't care, and you just have to respect that either way. I think the bigger issue comes in, and if you own your gym and you have a better relationship with everyone, again, you probably don't have to justify it, but baseball organizations are huge, right? There's people at all these levels, owner, GM, assistant GMs, directors, coordinators, field staff. So how do you get that across to someone who doesn't get that Dan Brown just seal of approval with his words, right? Like, okay, hey, listen, this person at the top of the food chain, they're getting info from everyone. Hitting coaches, pitching coaches, manager, scouts, strength conditioning. What can I give them that they can just quickly read and go, okay, cool. Maybe I have a question, maybe I don't, but here it is. And so that's really where, the sports science, I think, does its best is it can bridge that gap to some people who don't speak our language or honestly just aren't into it. And that's okay. You don't have to love the weight room. You can still be an effective front office leader and not love the weight room, because your job is to put the best product on the field and you're just putting people in place to help produce that. So it's never a negative. It's easy to just go, that's bullshit, man. I know I got them stronger. Yeah, we did, always take that challenge and spin it to help your cause.
I would pose that question, and most of those people, they're not going to want to know how the sausage is made. They want to know that it tastes great, right? So I'm going to say to Mr. GM, well,
exactly.
If you look at our team, our injury rate is the bottom is lowest 25% in the league. So 75% more teams are getting injured more than we are, and year after year, from January to December, our absolute numbers have gone up this percentage and our speed numbers have gone up this percentage. And so if you're stronger, more powerful, then we probably have a better shot of winning. And that's it. I walk away. We're getting hurt less. We're stronger and faster. And they're going to be like, okay, that's really all I care about. You can keep your job and you get paid next week. That's great.
Yeah. No, and I mean, again, you know what? That would be a culture thing. If that's the culture you and your GM or leadership is set up, fantastic. Then, if that's not the culture, if I'm not the alpha and I'm not setting that culture, I sometimes have to get in line. And if they're into that stuff, then they're into it. Yeah.
It's just interesting. I thought about that question because after coaching at some bigger schools, bigger colleges, we took a lot of data. We did a lot of, everybody was jumping on a force plate at least once a week. Everybody was getting a 10-yard dash taken every single week.
Right.
And then I get a job at the high school that I'm at, and data just absolutely is a complete 180 when it comes to recording data, because it seemed almost absolutely pointless because there's no data in the world that could tell me anything that I already know when it comes to these kids. And, that everybody wanted to know it's more absolute stuff here. It's more how fast they're 40, how strong are they on the squat, stuff like that. So it's a little bit more simple.
Yeah.
And,
that's perfect though.
Yeah. It works definitely for high school, but right off the bat, as soon as I got here, everybody was, well, we need to get numbers, and everybody was like, let's back up a second, because there's no way I'm maxing out any of these kids. Or testing them on anything until they get something in some sort of training. So my perspective on the data thing really changed once I got to high school level. For me, I don't even test any of our kids until the first 9 weeks, the end of the first 9 weeks, just because it's different group of kids, different demographic than it is obviously at the college level. But you get a bunch of new kids that's never trained. You get a bunch of kids that haven't trained since last semester, or a lot of kids that took the summer off. So you got to find a way to manage that. And it's just, there was a point where I was going to buy velocity-based unit. Because we had some guys squatting 500 pounds, and we had some guys getting really strong. And I thought, high school kids can squat 500 pounds. It'd be, how else can I make them bigger, faster, and stronger? And we'll put them on a VBT unit. Probably do some good work for them. Now, like 500 is strong enough for a linebacker, a high school linebacker, I would say.
Yeah.
Let's have them start moving fast. So that's very far few in between. So.
Yeah, no, I think that the biggest thing you did was you realized it's not the same playbook everywhere you go. Being a strength coach doesn't mean you just take this one thing and just start passing it out. You, for lack of a better term, you read the room, you knew the situation, and you were smart enough to adapt to it. And listen, by no way, I'm not passing judgment. I'm not here to you're a great strength coach, right? You don't need me to say that. But I think that's the key to it. You started, what you didn't say in that right there was you start with the why. Why would I even be collecting numbers? What are we going to do with them once I collect them? Okay. At that college, apparently that was important. You guys you were doing something with them. I mean, you were collecting a lot. At the high school, it's not as important. So you don't need to do that. The why drives everything. You always work backwards from the answer. That's the beautiful part of being a strength coach. Like, we pretty much know what the answer is. But you said bigger, stronger, faster, more agile, better body comp, blah, blah, blah. Pick something. And then we just work backwards from it to where we are in this exact moment. And we move forward and we make adjustments as we go. So yeah, because that's the other slippery slope with data, right? I mean, the force decks never tell me no. They never say, nope, don't jump on me today. I'm not ready. They turn on every time I hit the button and plug it in. So you can get just honestly an absurd amount of data, and it just muddies the water, right? You have to, data hygiene, right? That's the phrase. Your data hygiene needs to just be so much more intensive than what it would actually be if you were not getting as much data, but relative data, quality over quantity, right? The economy of training. We talk about that all the time. It's like, if you can only do one lift today, curls. You better pick the best lift.
Curls 100%, right?
Bicep curls, probably for the younger crew. Right? They love that. Right. But then, okay, I got time to do second exercise. Okay, I got time to do right. You work your way backwards from most important to least important. And it's the same thing with the data and the technology. If it doesn't answer your why, then you don't do it.
Lucas doesn't talk about this. I'm going to ask Lucas 2 questions.
That's awesome.
For important data. 3 questions. How many years have you been training or coaching at Northside, Lucas? 4 years. So that's first question. Second question. How many kids would show up in total the first day for 1 day of training at Northside? What's the average attendance throughout the day in year 1, first month?
First month, before and after school training, I was lucky to get 10, maybe. 10, maybe 15, if that. When I first started, we only had 2 true strength conditioning classes, so I had a total of 50 athletes my first year. 25 one class, 25. I remember it was 25 in my 4th period, 25 in my
and then how many do you have
7th
now?
period. So when we started out. This year, we have 6 athlete classes. We have 180 athletes, which is over half the amount of athletes that we have in the school. And then depending on what teams are in there, I can have somewhere between another 150, 180 kids after. So just kind of depends whether or not football's training. That's a big chunk of our after school numbers, but filling all the other gaps, you got around another 7.
So that's the impact right there in 4 years. You go from 25, and 10 to between 300 and 400 total. So that metric right there says, hey, Lucas is getting people. But even if Lucas sucked at training people, and he has them just doing 5x5 every time they're there of squat, bench, deadlift, or push-ups, even if he sucked, but they were doing nothing before. Now he's got a whole bunch of people doing stuff that he sucks at, allegedly, right? They're going to be better. And if he's any good, well, now he's start making real impact. So that's some stats I think that get overlooked with Lucas and the job he's done there. So, Tim,
no doubt, that's awesome.
Attendance is probably the number one stat, I would say, at the high school level. If you can get guys to show up consistently,
Yep.
You're probably going to be better than
Tim, you
team.
talked about, for those guys that stick through it and make it to this level, they have to love all the grind, right? Because you do. You have to love it because you have to do a bunch of shit. You're hurt. You're away from your family, right? There's all these distractions, and temptations, right? You have to love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, you're coming up on 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
So you must love the shit out of baseball, right? So tell us why you love baseball and what's special about it for you.
Why do I love baseball and what's special about it for me? I gotta love it. 2 decades, you said it. You know what? Part of it's probably being stubborn and just proving that I could somehow last long enough to make it to the major leagues, even if it was just for 1 year. So stubbornness probably played a big part. I think what I love about it is the game is beautiful. The lifestyle is hard, and you have to find a way to merge those two things together, right? Because you're in the trenches with everyone else, and everyone's fighting a little bit for air, right? From a strength coach perspective, what I love about it is it changes every day. Here, imagine this. You make a great plan. You're ready to give it to someone. They walk in the door and go, nah, I don't think so. Wad it up and throw it over your shoulder. And you got to start over on the spot, right? So the challenge is always, it's always here every day. It's always something different, right? Whether it's cultural, right? A lot of Latin players, a lot of different American players from different backgrounds. The actual language barrier is here. The pecking order of players, right? The seasoned guys to the newer guys. Mother Nature, she puts her hand in the game every now and then. Just like, it's almost absurd at times, right? To play so many games, so many days, still get our work in. How do you do that? I love that challenge. I've helped out in the past. So I live in Southern Indiana, very close to Louisville, have friends who have had strength jobs in Louisville, some colleges and stuff. I've went and helped, and, there's just something about only showing up to the weight room every day in the off season for them. I just, I don't know. It doesn't get me as fired up. I like to see these guys put the work in and then walk out there every night and put it to use, and then go, okay, how can we do it? What adjustment can we make? Where can we tighten the screws? Where can we back off? What needs to happen? Because ultimately the goal is, if I didn't show up tomorrow, the Miami Marlins are still going to play a game against the Dodgers. The game does not depend on me. The game doesn't depend on any of the strength coaches, any of the trainers, any of the physical therapists, any of the field staff. The game depends on these 9 dudes who are going to walk out there with the uniform on. If they show up, we'll play. So just understanding where my part of it is, you can definitely mess it up, but you should do your best to just keep it moving forward and help the wheel roll smoother. And how can you do that? And at the lower levels, there's a lot of excitement when a guy advances. And if you feel you played a part in that, or at least you gave him an opportunity to try to advance. And then here, there's still accolades. There's still things these guys are trying to do. They're trying to, make an all-star team. They're trying to last for 10 years and be vested. They're trying to do whatever, just spend a full season in the major league level. Like, if you can play a little part in that, that's pretty neat. The long ass answer. I think the other part is too, just being from Southern Indiana, people from this, even this other little part of Indiana where I initially am from, where my mom's family is from, like, people don't, that road, they grow up and they live on that road, and they don't always make it out and about, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love that. I love going home. My heart is at home. But to just be someone who sort of does that for them, because this job, for all the bad stuff sometimes, you got to put up with, like, it doesn't mean anything if you can't share it with the people who you care about and you love and who have helped you along the journey, right? So when we play the Reds, that's very close to home. There's no team closer. Of course, all my family lives close to there, and they're all Reds fans, and they want to come out to the games. And they come out and they sit in the Marlins section, and they wear their Reds gear, and I have to apologize to people and go, hey, you're on your own once you up there and you're cheering for the wrong team. I can't help you. But that's what it's about, right? It's about like reaching out to my cousins, reaching out to my parents, reaching out to my wife, and hey, we're close. Hey, let's do this. Bring everyone out. Let them be part of it, because how else they might not have a chance to do that otherwise.
Host and say, hey, come to a Reds game, let's hang out. That's awesome too.
Yeah.
I figured, right?
No doubt. You guys are next on the list. I'm surprised. Why didn't you guys go take hacks in the cage with Caitlin Clark? She was at Victory Field. I saw her on TV.
Lucas and I are not quite pros yet.
Oh.
Yes, quite. Well,
we're washed up athletes.
You're talking about,
the three of us are. So
people loving the grind, but also some of the better players not making it. Is there like a one or two commonalities, regardless of single A or the majors or whatever, where you see, this obstacle snags a lot of players and stops them? One or two commonalities, like, this, they
100%.
can't handle this obstacle.
Yeah.
Their career is going to be pretty short. What are one or two of those obstacles that our listeners need to know about, so they think they can avoid that or fix it?
It's romantic interests and nightlife, right? So it's,
that might be just the answer.
Without all the stories your brother probably told you, man, people want to jump on. People want, if you're going to be the guy, you have a lot of people who want to ride that train, and, or people who are willing to disrupt the train you currently have going. If you can't handle that, that's often a wrap. I'll say this. We had this, and I'll say the other point afterwards. Single A, we had a pitcher who shared co-pitcher of the year award with Madison Baumgartner. If you know him, he's very successful. He's now retired. Him and the pitcher we had, neck and neck across the board on these stats. Show up to spring training the next year. Yo, where's so-and-so? Oh, he retired. Like, what? He retired? I mean, dude, you're an A-ball. You're doing really well. You got called up a couple times to make these spot starts. Yeah, he retired. Okay, hey, you know what? I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to see how he's doing. Pick up the phone, give him a shout. Hey, what's up, dude? Heard you retired. Yeah, my girlfriend she didn't like me being gone so much. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're okay. Yeah, it's not my job to talk him out of it. I just wanted to hear what was going on. Lo and behold, I don't think he married her. He is married now, and he's probably very happy and successful. I've heard his name through the grapevine, from other kids who live in that area. But, would he have been as successful as Madison Baumgartner? I don't know. Yeah. But in the moment, he was. Right? So in the moment, he was like, and that just goes back. People, it's not enough to support the ones you love at 99%. You have to support them at 100%. 99 might as well be 1. It might as well be 0. Like, it doesn't matter. You have to support the people you love. And so then the other part of that is just nightlife in general, man. Even when you're not making a lot of money, you're making money, and you're in and out of towns. You can do what you want. You can blow it, you can save it, whatever. But guys who can't find a balance of letting some steam off with the boys, bottling it in, blowing it out, that's usually, every level is a weed out level. A-ball weeds out to AA, AA weeds out to AAA, AAA weeds out to the big leagues. The big leagues weed you out back to AAA or out of the game, And so that's why, you might not be, you might not be the best, but you're the most consistently available because you're putting it together.
We had this
You've managed those things.
Lady on a couple weeks ago, Shani, and she said, some of these, the reason I made it to pros or some of her friends who were competing in the Olympics, she said, most of them, they weren't playing at big schools or this and that. They just outlasted. They just kept going, kept putting their head down and kept going. And someone else would fall away. And they kept going and someone else would get hurt. Someone else would lose interest. And they would just keep going. And he said, for a lot of those people, it wasn't more complicated than that. So we talked about this beforehand, but talk about you running bleachers at these stadiums earlier on in your career. The why behind that, because you take the answer, which is running bleachers. Well, why are you doing that at all these stadiums?
Yeah, it's each. I think what's one thing that's cool about baseball is, each field is a little different. Have these different dimensions, right, to the outfield. It's not just a basketball court, a football field. Mm-hmm. So they all have these little unique lives to them, and that's just how you just sort of get in touch with them. You get out there, you get in the bleachers, take the views in from all the different angles that you can, smell the air in the town you're in. Just a way to just sort of be in the moment more than anything. Now, way back, I guess I was wild enough to, grab a guy. Okay, hey, let's go run, throw a weight vest on, crush some bleachers, do it again the next day with a different guy. Not as much now, but now what the routine is, our physical therapist and I, every stadium, usually on the second or third day we're in a town, we'll go to that stadium early. We'll take the elevator or the stairs to the highest level and sit in the highest seat behind home, and total nosebleeds. And we just take it in and we go like, listen, we don't know what's going to happen today. We could get our ass kicked. We could kick their ass. The game could get rained out. We might be awful. We might be great at our jobs. But for today, this is our office. This is the view. People are going to pay to come here and watch a baseball game. And we get to sit right down there in that dugout and do it. And, it's just a way to like, wow, there it is. Like this computer, man, I wanted to throw it off the bridge in Pittsburgh last week. I honestly feel similar right now that I can't get the camera to work, but it's just a reminder. It's just a computer,
Technology is great.
It's not going to be the end all.
It's not great. And what I'm hearing you say with all your habits there, it's just another way to stay grounded and in the moment and appreciative. You don't let the stressors crush you down a little bit. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You have to. I mean, you got to live in this kind of, say neutral. You be a little bit above neutral, right? You don't be below, obviously. But just live, in this kind of right there. Stay, I'm making a straight line here with my hand just right across where the camera should be. That's just, and I think that's part of what I love about strength conditioning in general, the season in general. Base is like, you can't get to the end of the line without actually taking the journey. It's not a microwave. So, if you want to last to game 162, you have to start with game 1, then you have to go to game 2. Right? I'm not going to count it all the way down, but you don't just get to jump. Same thing in the weight room. Okay, you want to be a high school linebacker who squats 500 pounds, and you currently squat 135. You just not going to squat 500 tomorrow, and then boom, we made it. You're going to squat 140 and 145 and 150, right? It's just the journey. It's the consistency that takes you along. And so that's, the bleachers, the steps, just part of it.
This is more of a fun question, but what's one of the worst, most grueling bleacher runs? Which stadium and which town had the worst smell?
Oh my God. Which town had the worst smell? Oh man, which town had the worst smell? I can't remember which town this was, but they had
the town.
Like he knows the town. Pet food.
That's total factory. Full of shit. He knows.
Yeah. I remember it not smelling real great there.
He's happy his computer's not on now. Right.
Yeah. You guys can't see me bullshitting right there. St. Louis, it's got Anheuser-Busch down the road. If that's a good, relaxer. The tough stairs, man, the toughest stadiums are the ones, because I'm not a real big guy, right? So where they got those kind of like deeper steps, but they really could fit a second one in between there, and they don't. So you almost have to touch it twice before you can get up to the next step. Those are usually the ones that would give me the most trouble. I kind of like, I needed them to be a little closer so I could just shimmy on up. Durham, North Carolina, they have that's a good one to run, and they got a steep outfield behind right field. Those are good steps. Well, a really beautiful town also.
Let's assume that the White Sox organization and the Marlins organization are your favorites, and they're outstanding. There's nothing wrong with either one of those. In fact, those two are the best of it, that you could think of, right? Because you spent 20 years with them. Outside of those two, which stadiums and fans are you think, man, this is outstanding, this is fun, this is baseball? And then also, which ones are you like, you know what? For ballpark food, this is the best ballpark food I've ever had.
Oh, those are easy, so easy to answer. When we were on the plane flying to the town, I'm going to tell you, a couple of the older staff members said, "Hey, I want to take you out to the nicest restaurant in town. Mm-hmm. Did you bring any clothes? Type stuff." Like, well, I guess. I mean, what you see me wear is about what I got. Okay, got my uniform. I got jeans and polo. So they're like, okay, hey, be ready. We're gonna go to the nicest restaurant in town. So I'm kind of thinking, shit, all right, yeah. I'm not gonna tell Alex, my wife, right away because she's probably heating leftovers up for the kids and not even getting any after they throw it on the floor. But we got to this town, and the best restaurant was in the clubhouse, and that's the Yankees. It's the best. I mean, hands down, no question. Walked right in, dude. I don't know. They got 5 chefs, the best kitchen dining area in the league. Whatever. I mean, I don't know how you could still want food beyond what they're already offering, but made to order. It's amazing. Yeah. So that answers that. When I think about towns that love baseball, that you're there and you think, wow, dude, this is awesome. The Yankees fit that bill. We played them on a Wednesday night. I think our first road trip of the season, and the place was sold out, and they're cheering as though it's late September right now. The other city is Philadelphia. Man, I mean, just fill it to the brim. Love their team. Hate you. It's always like, just boo that man. Come on, like we love it because if they're booing, you're winning probably, or you're doing something well. Other cities that love baseball, that do it really well, obviously the Cubs, right? Wrigleyville is they eat it up. Dodgers eat it up. They put butts in the stands. Padres are great. So yeah, they just but you took me back to some of that food in New York, man. It was pretty good.
And it was August 8th. Because I was in New York City for the New York City Seal Swim. We had some other guests on that. We're running this fundraiser with these seals swimming across the Hudson River, of all things. And I had this night, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get a ticket. But it wasn't a problem. It poured rain, and it wasn't pouring that much. And it was the Dodgers, and they're like, they're going to want to get this game in instead of flying them back across the country. And so they're playing in the rain. And you're right. People will walk around with these buckets of chicken fingers and fries, which was outstanding. There's a steakhouse right there for any person to go to, multiple steakhouses you can go to inside for any regular fan. And I was like, this is Yankee Stadium. There's all these amazing people, all these greats, Hall of Famers. They got great food. It was just awesome. Mm-hmm. It was just awesome there. Only a few more questions. I caddied for a few years, not a big deal, but we were always quoting, Caddyshack and, Tin Cup and all that other shit. So you guys quoting like there's no crying in baseball and, Major League and Bull Durham and For the Love of the Game, is that really a thing, or you guys, is it so played out? It's kind of a cliche. You're like, man, please do not quote another baseball movie.
No, it's not played out at all. Yeah, if it warrants it, if it's in the moment, for sure. Especially, staff members and guys who've been through those cities or on those like Bull Durham. I mean, Bull Durham's unbeatable. That's kind of a combination of the South Atlantic League, the Carolina League. some of those stadiums are still in use. So yeah, that's a good one. We build their own love of the game. Guys talk about that one. That's Kevin Costner. He pitches that perfect game at Yankee Stadium.
A League of Their Own, Major League. The Natural, Sandlot,
League of Their Own,
Smalls, right?
Yep.
Wendy Peppercorn,
Sandlot. Guys love it. Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. I just showed my kids the Sandlot over All-Star break actually for the first time. I got them to really sit long enough to watch it.
I came home from college and he's like, let's go see this baseball movie. I'm
nice.
Like, whatever. All right. And I'm like, oh, it's a kid movie, but it ended up being great. All right. Can the Indians win the World Series this year? Because I'm from Cleveland. Yeah? What do you think?
They can. Yeah.
Good shit.
They can.
Well, anyone can.
What do I think? Will they, or do I think they can?
Probabilities, or am I just going to be upset again come October, late September?
Yeah. No, they're playing well, man. They're in a they're in an interesting spot. If they, I mean, this is so corny to say, but it's truth. Like if they stay healthy,
that's true, right?
You got to put the best guys out there.
Fall away at some point.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Turns out, yeah.
That's why not every team plays in October.
On your own. What do you listen to?
Yeah. Yeah. What do I listen to when I train? Here during the season, I don't like to DJ too much. It's whatever someone else puts on. I don't really care. I mean, we just hear so much music, so many different types of music constantly. You got to think, we're in the weight room getting stuff on repeat. Someone else is walking in and they're just putting it on.
Sure.
Well, for them, could be the first time that day. For us, could be the fifth or sixth time. Me personally, if I'm at home type stuff in the off season, I probably just do something like this, a podcast, I like Dave Ramsey, Jocko, stuff that could kind of fit that bill. If my kids' teachers send anything kind of saying, here's what we're currently doing, here's some stuff we're interested in, where, the kids are talking about, I'll throw that on in the background and listen. I honestly I probably don't need as much music. I got enough conversation happening in my head most of the time that it keeps me busy and entertained.
Bucket list adventure for you and Alex. You can't either have done it before, but it's just you two. Where you guys would like to go?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if her interest level is as high as mine is, but I just want to get in the car from our driveway. I want to drive up the Dalton Highway in Alaska to I think it's pronounced Barrow, Alaska. They might have renamed the highway, by the way. And I want to drive all the way there. And I mean, the goal, right? The adventure is what it's about. It's not necessarily getting there. We'll get there when we get there. I would love to do that. I just think that'd be so awesome. It's probably need to drive it during the summertime, so I don't have a lot of opportunity to do that at the moment. We did drive the kids from home to Idaho last year for fall break, and that was every bit of 24 hours. So yeah, to get to Alaska, I don't know if maybe they need to be a little older or we need a bigger car to spread them out.
Maybe. But, how old's your youngest?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, no. Okay.
Duke is 5. No. Duke is 4.
All right. For your favorite sports movie, you're home, you said Hoosiers and then Bull Durham, but do you have a list of favorite baseball movies, like from 1 through 3 or 1 through 5?
1 through 3, Bull Durham, Sandlot. A bunch of them probably tag in at 3, right? Like Field of Dreams,
right?
Brewster's Millions. Don't sleep on it. Great movie.
Yep.
Richard Pryor. Yeah. Yep. I mean, and hey, don't doubt the fact that there could have been railroad tracks through the outfield of a minor league team.
8 Men Out. The White Sox, the Black Sox.
Yeah, 8 Men Out's good. League of Their Own, I think, is great. Of course, I have 3 daughters, so I love them seeing.
He basically offered.
He's fantastic. Yeah.
Because Penny Marshall, who's the director, is like, we can't afford you, Tom. He's like, I read the script. This looks awesome. Just pay me the minimum, and I'll do it because it's so cool. Yeah. You have a favorite sport to watch? Like pro wrestling, like jumping
I
off
love
the
wrestling.
turnbuckle, Macho Man Savage, or you mean like, Dan Gable,
Yeah,
Iowa University, smashing people on the mat.
Well,
all right.
First off, it would be the Ultimate Warrior. Okay, so let's Baker. Okay, but yeah, with my son, I've tried to turn it on a little bit, expose him to it. Just get his juices flowing a little bit. He's not scared of anything, so he gets right on it. But yeah, no, collegiate, international wrestling. I love it. That's really where my heart is when it comes to sports. And with the Olympics we're just on, it's awesome. And again, have some daughters. Women's wrestling, big. Indiana had three of the 6 weight classes for Team USA from Indiana. Got to give that a shout out. Gold medal. So yeah, anything that really, and I think beyond like my own personal likes, if my kids, if they find something, they turn it on and they're into it, then I love that also. Favorite because book? I just want to stoke what they're into.
All right, I'll have to get that.
Oh, On the Road. Jack Kerouac.
Your favorite superhero, and it doesn't need to be comic, it could be real life, but it could be fictional.
Gosh, real life superheroes, man. I mean, fictional. As a kid, I probably really liked Spider-Man. I think I watched some of those movies. I'm not as much into superheroes now.
You have a villain?
Man, shit, yeah.
All right.
Nah. $1 Million Man.
Wrestling guy.
Ted DiBiase. Like He's a bad guy. He's real.
Could you pick one lift? It's your favorite?
One lift that's my favorite when I was younger is probably back squat. Now it's probably anything that helps my back feel better. Posterior chain type, booty ham, some trap bar deadlift. I know it's polarizing, it's lame. Just grab the straight bar, right?
But trap bar has its place.
Yeah, maybe I like it too. I'm not scared.
Some reverse hypers for you if you got some.
Yeah, not scared. Reverse hypers, yeah. Yeah, things that keep me standing up taller
and be a
straighter.
Dad with your own inclusive gym and a coffee shop. That sounds pretty sweet. You have a favorite quote?
Shit, yeah. No doubt. Favorite quote?
So either all
if it's not a yes, it's a no.
Any kind of hesitation means no.
If you ask.
Okay.
Yeah, don't do it.
Okay. Man, Tim, great time. A lot of laughs on this one, and I really enjoyed the, the things about sports and life that had nothing to do with getting better. The which town smelled the worst. I'm gonna say, I'm sure I'm gonna say what it is, but anybody that plays the Indians, we're gonna say it's that whole division. So maybe it's Twins, whatever. But no, that was great having you on, man, and really appreciate the time and the gift of you being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm sorry about the camera. Let's do it again when I figure this camera out, and we can talk some more X's and O's again if you'd like. I would enjoy that. And yeah, it was just great rapping with you guys. I mean, y'all got a lot good going on. So thank you for taking time to have me on. For 2 more weeks in Miami, then in Southern Indiana, and then you know what? I don't have a real big online presence. It's just not my jam. I am trying to build a little bit of a website. It's gypsystrength.com. Not really up and active at the moment, but if you check in soon enough, I think I can probably
when you're back in Indiana, drive up to Indianapolis and we can get a lift in, and we'll get Dan Brown together. So
no doubt,
really appreciate it. For those that have questions about getting a hold of us and you want to have questions for other guests, you can email us info@athlete-builder.com. Until next time, it's Jim and Lucas signing off. Tim, thanks a lot again. Thanks again, and I really appreciate having you. We'll talk to you next time.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, Tim.
Thank you, Lucas.